Yeah, it's them.
Om Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhirupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Dayarupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matrirupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Salutations again and again to the Goddess who dwells in all beings in the form of intelligence. Salutations again and again to the Goddess who dwells in all beings in the form of compassion. Salutations again and again to the Goddess who dwells in all beings in the form of motherhood. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Good evening to all of you who made it to attend the Talking Person. I'm very happy to be back in Raleigh. We had the Kali Puja yesterday. It was very nice. So today we'll have a talk on Mother, and tomorrow we'll have a talk on spiritual life, how to deepen our spiritual life. Originally, I was not aware that this would be live streamed, so I thought we could do a discussion, like we exchange ideas and we discuss. But then when I heard that we are going to live stream it, then you have to give a regular talk. Boring, normal talk. One person speaks, the other rest listens. But I think you feel free to interrupt anytime and add anything or ask anything, and we can discuss. I can repeat whatever you say on the mic, so everybody at home can hear as well. So that is perfectly fine with me. So God is our mother. Well, is it true or not? Is God our mother or not? Well, Vedanta would say, God is our mother if you want God to be your mother. It is our choice. And that is a special feature of Vedanta, that it gives us freedom to approach God in any way we want. In other traditions, God is this, and it cannot be anything else. But in Vedanta, there's a wide range of possibilities as to what God can be. But all Vedantins will agree that the ultimate reality is transcendental, is beyond name and form, time and space. When you read Swami Vivekananda's The Ideal of a Universal Religion, that lecture, we get a clear idea of how can religion become universal. He says, it is only when you don't depend on prophets. It is only when you don't depend on cultural traditions, because these will always be different. There will always be vegetarians and non-vegetarians, worshippers and intellectuals. All over the world, people have different cultures and different approaches, and it will always be like that. We cannot become just everybody the same. So these things will remain. How could religion possibly become universal? leaving aside all these things, what is God? It is transcendental. It is beyond name and form, time and space. Then we can all agree. We can share the same God. You leave out the prophets, you leave out the traditions. What remains? Pure consciousness, spirituality, the spirit, the experiencer. That is what we believe God is. Pure consciousness, Sat Chit Ananda. What is God? Existence, consciousness, bliss. That is the widest definition that the sages could come up with. This is what God is. We exist. And if we are not aware of that, there is no point in religion. I mean, we know that we exist. So we exist and we know we exist. We are aware of it. And we seek happiness. It is universal. Why do we do the things we do? Is because we are seeking happiness. Why do we start a family? Because we are seeking happiness. We want to love and be loved. We are seeking happiness in so many ways. So this is, when you boil down everything about human life, it comes down to this. We exist, we are conscious, we seek happiness. That is the most basic thing. And everything else is, temporal, is temporary. Okay, very good. The God of Vedanta is transcendental. Now, how can that help us in our day-to-day life? How does it help me to know that God is pure consciousness? It's not much use. Intellectually, I can accept that God is pure consciousness, unless I have come to that very high level of experience that I can experience that reality, that God is consciousness, that everything is nothing but consciousness. Unless we get to that very high state, we are stuck in this lower level. What are we going to do? How can that knowledge help us? Well, it's very, very hard to make it practical. This world, Vedanta says, is unreal. How is it unreal? Is it like the horns of a hare? A rabbit has no horns. So if you talk about the horns of a rabbit, it is unreal. Is it like a flower in the sky? No, we don't see flowers in the sky. So like that, there are examples that we find in the philosophers gave. But the world is not like that. It is not like the horns of a hare. There is some reality in this world, and we misread it as something else. I'll give you an example that a friend told me, which I think somehow I find it that sheds some light on this. He has a little daughter, and like kids, they have their very lively imagination. They can imagine so many things, They are in their own world. So this little girl said, "Daddy, today is my birthday. We have to celebrate." Okay, it's not, of course, but it is for the sake of playing. Today is my birthday. Okay, now she starts, all the people who came, they are all imaginary, of course, and the presents that they brought. Then she says, "Okay, now the cake. Okay, now the candles are there. You have to sing my happy birthday." Okay, happy birthday. And then she's going to blow up the candles. And the father, just for the sake of play, he blows them out before her. And she looks at him like, "How can you do that?" And she starts weeping. He cannot console her. She is so shocked and sad and mad. "How could you do this? I'm going to blow the candles of my birthday. How can you do that to me?" And that is us in the world. Where is the candle? Where is the birth cake? Well, she thinks it is her birthday, and she's imagining all this, and she's weeping, and there's no way to console her. 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. Of course, the cake is not real, but in her mind, there is some reality. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so sad. So this world is like that. I mean, the scriptures say this is pure consciousness. We see the multiplicity. We get attached. And then we died. And that's it. We live and we die. In the meantime, we got attached. We laughed and cried. We were happy. We were unhappy. But when you look back, like when we were small kids, it looks like it was somebody else. Who was that kid playing? It was me. And when I was playing, it was very important. That was who I was. And if I looked at some grown up, I thought, wow, it looks like, I believe I will never be like that. You know, then we would become grown up, and then I can't believe I was a kid and I used to play. It's like, who was that? It's not me. So this is Maya, the unreality of the world. So it is real. There is some reality, but it is unreal also. It is temporal. It is, you know, nothing stays the same. It's always changing. So what are we going to do? How can this knowledge that we are spirit help us? Swami Nirakarananda says, as human beings, we need a human God. For the vast majority of people, there are very few special souls who can, you know, say, I am the Atman, I am the self. For the vast majority, we need something concrete. Swami Nirakarananda said, if the buffaloes wanted to worship God, they will imagine God as a huge buffalo, the best, strongest, most powerful buffalo. If a human being wants to worship God, who are we going to take as God? It's not a matter of strength or power for a human being. How do we want our God to be? Our God should be free from all the imperfections we have. We have anger. Our God never gets angry. We have lust. Our God has no problem at all. He loves all beings equally. We have selfishness. Our God is perfectly unselfish. This is the human God. It's the aggregate of all desirable qualities and the absence of all our shortcomings. That is the God we want to worship. So, okay, we need a personal God. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, if you want to worship God, you need to adopt a particular attitude. What does it mean? Adopt a particular attitude. He says, God should not be something that lives in the church or in the temple or wherever, or lives in a picture or an image. God should become our closest friend, our closest ally. So when we have a problem, and it happens, it's a human need. Suppose you had a very bad day at the office and you are mad at your boss. It was really rough. So we need to unload that with somebody who we trust. It's just too much to keep inside. So we call a friend who perhaps knows that boss. You won't believe what happened to me today, blah, 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 blah. And then, okay, at least I let it out, you know. There is some relief. And the same thing with something good happens. Oh, you know, finally I got this, whatever it is. You know, for some of our devotees, I got the green card. Oh, you know, let us celebrate. So something like that, you want to share it with others. If I got the green card today, I will not just go to bed and not tell anybody. I'll tell all my friends. So it works both ways. When something bad happens, we need somebody to talk to. When something good happens, we also want to share. We are social beings. Sri Ramakrishna says, let God be that kind of friend that never lets you down. If If you have something to tell it to God. He or she is always there for you. So he said, in order to develop love for God, we have to cultivate a particular attitude. He said, any human relationship can be translated into a divine relationship. We have daughters, sons, parents, friends. All these things we can project onto God. So you have Sri Ramakrishna. You can say Sri Ramakrishna is my friend. And all through our life, we cultivate that. Sri Ramakrishna is my friend. Jesus is my beloved. For many nuns in the Christian Catholic faith or whatever, they believe Jesus is their beloved. Their whole life, they will cultivate that attitude. Now you can imagine a few days, a few months, a few years, eventually it becomes something really powerful, that God is my beloved. I have him all the time. Jesus is my beloved. So that is what we have to try to do. Choose whichever God you like, according to Vedanta, and try to develop a relationship. Now, one thing that we could say is God male or female? If we are going to think of a human God. And generally, we come across God the Father, right? Especially in Christianity, it's always God the Father. St. Paul says that God first created Adam, and then he thought he needs some help, so he created Eve. So Eve's status is below Adam. That's not good, but that's what the Bible says. So now it seems unacceptable, How come that the woman was created as a helper to the man? That doesn't seem fair. But they say, there are different explanations according to who you ask. If you ask someone who is very traditional and conservative, they will say, oh, that's the way it is. God is the Father, and we cannot change that. And Jesus prayed to the Father. Now, if you talk to somebody who is a little more liberal, they will say, well, yeah, we don't like it, but that's the way it is, and we don't want to rock the boat. They understand the other perspective, but they still will say, they will stick to the tradition. If you talk to some very progressive Christians, they will say, that's wrong. That was a patriarchal, ancient society that, men were in charge. They wrote the books, and so God is the Father. But they say that's not right. So you find all these different approaches. What does Sri Ramakrishna think about it? He tells a story. Somebody was worshipping the Divine Mother, and he had put a sacred thread on the mother, like a Brahmin men wear. So somebody passed by and said, how come you're worshipping the Divine Mother and she's wearing the sacred thread? And the man said, oh, I'm so glad that you have understood what mother is, but I haven't. I don't know if she's male or female. So just in case I have put the sacred thread. But you were very advanced. You understood mother. I haven't. So Sri Ramakrishna says, it's very hard to understand God. We tend to think that the transcendental God is inconceivable, which is true, beyond speech and thought. But the personal God also is inscrutable. Just because it has a name and form, it may be a historical figure or not. When you have Kali and Shiva, we don't believe that Kali and Shiva lived among us. They are gods still. And they are the chosen ideal of many people. But then you have Ramakrishna, and some people say Krishna. They're historical, Buddha. They are also God to us. So, Sri Ramakrishna said, God is inscrutable, even the personal God is inscrutable. Sri Ramakrishna, somebody asked, is God with form or without form? And his answer is very interesting. The questioner was expecting one way or the other. But what he said was very interesting. He said, God is with form, without form, and infinitely more besides. Now, how do you understand that? We understand with form, and we can somehow imagine without form as the opposite of with form. Not that we understand very well, but okay, without form is the opposite of form. So you imagine something, a color. You imagine white or you imagine black and you say formless. That's all we can come up with. But infinitely more besides. How do you explain that? Maybe you're not trying to be a little scientific. We live in 3 dimensions. Maybe there are many more dimensions. How can we conceive of more dimensions with a 3-dimensional brain? So infinitely more besides means, who knows, beyond our comprehension. We understand with form, we understand somehow without form, but infinitely more besides. That's Sri Ramakrishna's utterances are so deep sometimes. He's so simple and at the same time so deep that you can analyze these utterances forever. What does that mean? So the Hindus in ancient times, they developed this tradition of worshipping God as Mother. And it has continued to this day. And it's rare to find in other parts of the world. You know, some like Native Americans or South America, you come across the worship of nature as Mother. When you talk of the earth, Mother Earth. The Native Americans, they don't say Father Earth. I mean, I haven't come across that. It's always Mother Earth. You know, the Mother Earth is very patient and very forgiving. She puts up with all the things we do. Herds of elephants just go about on the earth and she forbears. And then we mine for minerals and excavate, she's forbearing. All these examples are given of how Mother Earth is forbearing. But then somebody says, well, now with climate change and all this extreme weather and events that are happening, Mother Earth is taking revenge on us. That is one view. It's all a matter of words, but that doesn't appeal to me. Mother Earth is not taking revenge on us. It is our own doing. If we want poison, then we get poison. Mother is giving us whatever we ask for.
Cause and effect.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Buddha said, you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. And it's so true. It's just one preposition, but it makes a huge difference. We are not punished for our anger. Like there is a God administering justice up there and says, oh, you were angry, so you suffer. No, anger itself will punish us. We don't need any God. So like that, if you cut down a forest and plant soybean everywhere, then you destroy biodiversity. And the result is, you know, we find ourselves that we are alone. We don't have bees anymore. We don't have butterflies, you know. It's not the fault of the earth. It's our own doing. But somehow this idea came that, oh, Mother is taking revenge. Yeah, it's one way to look at it. But I think, you know, we can change it ourselves. Poor Mother Earth. So anybody wants to say anything? Are you aware of other traditions that worship God as Mother? There are not many.
And in Christians, Mother Mary is worshipped as Mother.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know, I'm not very familiar what the status is. Like in Hinduism, those who worship mother is dad. I mean, they don't want anything else. They don't need anything else. Whereas the Virgin Mary is like, Jesus is still the main figure. I think there is a difference there. When you are a worshiper of the Divine Mother, she takes care of everything. So that is
the
a.
mother. She's the mother.
She's the mother. Yeah, exactly.
She comes father.
And the mother, the specialty is she's powerful. Mother is power, shakti. So if you're looking for help, why would you go somewhere else? She is the source of all power in the universe. So you're going to the boss. You don't need, Jesus or Ramakrishna or anything. You just have the source of all power. So you need help. Mother, make me strong. She has everything. She can make it happen. Swami Nirakarananda says, with the name of mother comes the idea of shakti, divine energy, omnipotence. Just as the baby believes the mother to be all-powerful. That's very true. For a child, the mother is all-powerful. She may be very weak, tiny little lady. But for the babies, hey, I'll tell my mother. She will take care of it. He really believes that. My mother can do anything. All I need to do is just be with my mother. So he says, just as the baby believes the mother to be all-powerful, she is the totality of the energy in the universe. Every manifestation of power in the universe is mother. So Sri Ramakrishna said, God and God's power are inseparable. And the Divine Mother is represented as God's power. So you have the transcendental Brahman beyond time and space, name and form. And you have the Divine Mother as embodying the power of that transcendental Godhead. So who is running the show here in the realm of name and form, time and space? The Divine Mother. And who is lending the conscious aspect? It is the transcendental reality. That is one way to explain it. So Sri Ramakrishna said, this transcendental reality we call Brahman and its power are inseparable. As I think of milk, milk is white. Try to separate the whiteness from the milk. We cannot. If we have to think of milk, we have to think of it as white. He said, think of fire and its power to burn. Now try to separate the fire from the power to burn. If it cannot burn, it is not fire anymore. They go together. So that he said, God and its power are inseparable. So the Divine Mother represents the power that works all over this universe. So, why would we choose mother over other relationships? You have friend, you have father, you have beloved. Swami Nirakarananda said that, yes, they are all valid approaches and people practice them all, but mother seems to be easier because it is the closest love to divine love. The most pure love is divine love, and the one that comes immediately below that is mother's love. In this world, who loves the most? Who has the noblest love? A mother. So that Vivekananda explains very clearly. So it's very easy for us to call on God as mother, because we have received the love of our mother, and we can see it all over the world. I mean, it's manifested everywhere. Mothers will give their lives for their children. So in that sense, it's a very powerful way to approach God. God is my mother. If I say God is my father, yeah, but my father was tough. You know, fathers will discipline. They are there. They are more of a. They can detach from their love, and see, and you know, and judge and do the needful. The mothers seem to be very often blinded by their love. So the child may be worthless, but for the mother is the best child in the world. So that kind of unselfish love makes it a very powerful connection if we want to approach God. One thing also that is true, the mothers give life. So we speak of God as the creator, He, the creator. But when you think about it, who are the real creators in this world? It is the mothers. They give birth to creatures, right? So they are the creators or creatrix. Men are inventors. They invent things, but they cannot give birth to creatures. It's just not possible. It's not meant to be for them. So the real creators are the women, the mothers. Now you may say, well, without the father there is no child. Yeah, it's true. 50% of the genetic material is provided by the father. But here is the thing. If the father dies after conception, nobody will miss him. The child can develop and everything will go as planned. So it is the mother who protects the child, nourishes the child, and then, you know, brings him up or her up. The father is nowhere in the picture. So that's why I say the mothers are the real creators. So it should be she, the creator. It makes a lot more sense than saying father, the creator. It is mother who is the creator. Sri Ramakrishna said that this shakti, this divine mother, is the material and instrumental cause of the universe. And he gives the example of a spider. A spider, well, spins the web out of its own body. You know, some saliva it produces, and it just takes out the material for the web out of its body, and then it weaves the web. So he says the Divine Mother does just that. She is the material that makes this universe of matter, and she is the energy that is changing everything all the time, making everything move. Both are the Divine Mother. So she is the Shakti of the universe. Swami Nirakarananda says, the position of the mother is the highest in the world, as it is the one place in which to learn and exercise the greatest unselfishness. The love of God is the only love that is higher than a mother's love. All others are lower. It is the duty of the mother to think of her children first, and then of herself. There's one prayer, a Christian prayer once I heard, that said that to God, make me like a baby in the mother's arms. What can be more, give us a more sense of safety than a small baby when it's being held by the mother and nursed? That warmth and that holding, I mean, is the closest thing to bliss that you can imagine, you know? You're just, the baby just surrenders completely. It is blissful. Just, you know, the mother is nursing, he is in the mother's arms, not a care in the world. So that is like a picture for meditation, you know, let me be like that. I surrender to you in your arms, and you are the source of all my happiness. But of course, it's hard for us to reach that level of surrender, that say, God, I am just a baby in your arms. You protect me like a mother. Vivekananda gives another example. He says, a mother is walking in the street and the little dog comes and barks at her and she is terrified. She runs away. The next day, she is walking, holding hands with her little boy, and a tiger comes. Now she puts herself between the boy and the tiger. The fear is gone. Why? Because she will give her life for the child. So Vivekananda says, that kind of love you only find in the mother, nowhere else in this world. So you see, with all these examples, it makes a lot of sense to call on God as mother. Not that we have to, it is just one choice, but it does make a lot of sense. That is why millions and millions of people worship God as mother in India. Another characteristic of the mother is she's very compassionate. You know, the example we have in our tradition is Holy Mother. Sri Ramakrishna was very selective with his disciples, and he used to train them and discipline them. But Holy Mother said, I cannot turn away anyone who calls me mother. Now, that's a very low requirement to fulfill. And that's not getting easier than that. All you have to do, go to her and say, Ma, and that's it. She will respond. So it is remarkable. Sri Ramakrishna could not do that somebody comes and say, Pa, you know, he cannot do that. He's more selective, but Ma, that will do the trick. She will accept them. And she did. She did. She was surrounded by difficult, eccentric people who gave her a very hard time, but she couldn't reject them. They are her children too. So in her life you find lots of examples of her forbearance and really that motherly love that it was manifest all the time. Sometimes the devotees would come and say, you know, Mother, I have done this, I have done that, I have done so many, sinned so much. So the mother said, I am the mother of the wicked, and I am the mother of the virtuous. Never fear. Whenever you are in distress, just say to yourself, I have a mother. Now, what a message, you know? So she doesn't want even to hear about these things. You are my child. You are wicked? Yeah, you are my child. So it doesn't matter. It's a very unique kind of approach for a spiritual teacher. You are all welcome. You are all my children. There was a Muslim laborer, Amjad, and you know, he was a real criminal. He used to rob people, and they believed he may have murdered people, and everybody knew him that he was, you know, a gang leader or something like that. But he was devoted to the Holy Mother, and he would come and visit her with some pumpkin, you know, some very insignificant offering. But Mother would be so happy with that pumpkin, and she would treat him so well. But she made a remark that is really amazing. You know, Swami Sardananda was one of her main helpers, a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, an illumined soul, a saint. She said, just like Sharat is my son, exactly so is Amjad, this Muslim criminal. But there was no need to say exactly so. She could have said, both are my sons. But she made it very specific, exactly so. That, to me, that means she sees no difference at all. If a mother has a child who is dumb and another one who is very smart, she will love both equally, isn't it? It is a fact. For the mother, they're both her children. So she says, exactly so is Amjad to me. They're both exactly the same. Both are my children. There is another story. Um, you know, in the times of the British Raj, when Holy Mother lived, there was this boycott going on against the British goods because they were ruining the Indian economy, etc. So cheap goods would come from England and they would be sold, and they were very good. So Gandhi started the boycott. And so people start supporting the locally made cloths. So Holy Mother wanted to buy some cloths for her nieces, and she sent a brahmachari to buy the cloths. And he bought these coarse, locally spun cloths. And the nieces hated them, of course, because they were not colorful. They wanted silk from England. So they said, "Oh, we don't want this." And so Holy Mother said, "Why did you buy this?" asked the brahmachari. He said, "Well, there's a boycott going on against the British goods. How can we support the British?" And Holy Mother said, "They're also my children." But I don't think that brahmachari could, it must have been so puzzling to him, because it's a valid argument. You want to support your country, you want to be independent. Who doesn't want that? But Holy Mother told him, "Go and get the British cloths, exchange them. They are also my children." So that paints a picture of how broad she was. Nobody's left out. It's remarkable. So the guy had to go and change it.
That's interesting, Swami. But again, Mother also spun the thing, also the coat and the cotton weaving.
Yeah.
Also
Yeah, and also she, at the different times she said, "Well, when will the British leave?" She was, because there were injustice going on. But in this, if a person feels very strongly, they wouldn't have this broadness to say they are also my children. So she can see injustice, and she wants to solve it, but that doesn't kill her motherhood. She's not going to relinquish her British children just because they're naughty. So they are also her children. It's not that she doesn't see that there is something that is not right. She sees that. She understands that. But still, she loves everybody. She accepts everybody. So these are little stories, but they are very meaningful, and they give insights into her divine nature.
So this is meaningful to different nationalities. At that moment, we are reading Mother's book, and this was one point we were arguing, was that we cannot. It's very difficult to understand Divine Mother. This is divine. Why she did that? We came to the conclusion we cannot question that. We can see the behavior, which is very good, but from our point of view as a common human being, that time there's a lot of things going on in India, and so Devi, you can
Yeah,
add
it's like
something.
what we were discussing is we are assimilating with what state we are, but it's a divine play. We cannot understand why they did it and
That's what
how
we
they did
concluded
it.
in our group meeting. It's hard for us to understand why she did that, but to our human level, our common level, we can find that, well, why did she do that? That again, that
Like how can she
yeah.
be so forbearing, and why could she do it? But at this point, how she did it, why she did it is like we can argue about it, but we can never decide and
Yes.
understand why she did it, because it's a divine play. And
Yes, and I think the explanation is this. Our perspective is from a very low angle. I am Indian. From that little surface, I am Indian. I am from Peru. I am from Brazil. Whatever. So this is a very limited way to look at things. But it is who we are. It is where we stand. There is nothing wrong with it. But she is looking from far above,
Yes.
and she says, "You are a child of God." And God created the mountains and the rivers and the fields. God did not create any country. It is man-made. There was no India and Pakistan and Bangladesh at the time of Holy Mother. Then God made 3 countries. So it is we who make countries, and then we fight. God did not make any country. So to me, it is a problem of perspective. We are taking a narrow perspective because that's who we are. We can't help it. And yes, there is injustice, and yes, there are wrong things that happen all the time, everywhere. It's not like, even in India, you have the outcasts.
Oh, yeah.
That's, that's also wrong. For an outcast, it's very bad, So that, I think, is a matter of perspective. When Swami Vivekananda says, "My God, the murderer," "My God, the fool," he goes as far as to say, "My God, the murderer." We cannot see God in the murderer. You go to a high security prison and try to see divinity there, and it is going to be very hard. Because it's deep, it's hidden, under layers of violence and whatnot. But Swami Vivekananda could see, my God, the murderer. So Holy Mother,
It's the highest level, seeing everything as God. The
Yeah.
murder is also God, I'm also God, and that's the highest perspective of seeing and thinking like that, right? Like a divine thought. We don't go beyond ourselves being selfless of thinking.
yeah. So your conclusion is right. I mean,
that's what we concluded in our group. This beyond
No,
our,
there is so
why
many
we
things
that,
we
don't know,
read.
but
We read in Mother's story that she was so patient. She was so forbearing. And like she was patient with everything. Why should she do that? Or why did she do that? So why did she have to undergo so much of austerities or anything? They were divine, born divine, but they had to undergo certain things just to show that they don't need it. It's to show us that we need to do that. And we
Yeah.
also needed that, right?
yes, I don't know, it's to show us, and it's also because they are intrinsically divine. And like Sri Ramakrishna say, a realized soul never takes a false step. So they will never act selfishly because it's not in their nature, just like we act selfishly because it is in our nature. They are the other way around. They just cannot take a false step.
I think I like your example, what you said, that we imagine I'm from India, I'm from Peru. Nothing for God is nothing.
Who made India? Who made Pakistan? Who made Australia? It's all man-made.
Fits into my,
Yeah. And when you look at the map of Europe, for instance, it is changing before our eyes. There was Yugoslavia and so many other countries. Where are they now? We are talking about 20 years ago, not 200 years ago. So it's changing
The
before our
boundaries
eyes.
are moving.
Yeah, it's changing before our eyes all the time. So I think the lesson for us is not to get too attached to things. We are just a huge human family. We are all together. And still, when there is injustice, we try to solve it. Just like when there is some criminal activity, we call the police. We don't say, hey, you can do whatever you want. No, we call the police. In Ramana Maharshi's life, he was once climbing the mountain, and he happened to disturb a nest of wasps on the ground. Sometimes they make the nest on the ground. So the whole swarm of wasps came out, and like the yellow jackets, they started stinging his leg. And he's looking at them and says, yes, well done. Now, who can say, why is he doing that? What is the need? We don't know. He just feels that, yeah, you're right, I disturb you. We're talking about insects, not even human beings. But he can see that it's okay. They should be mad.
So, Swami Mahayogananda was bit by yellow jackets. Yeah,
So was he like that?
No,
Looking
it was a bit like they are our bamboo. He went to
Yeah,
clean
he
it.
told me the story actually. He was very sweet. It was very funny. Yeah, actually, I thought of the Ramana Maharshi story, but I kept quiet because.
He said last week I was wearing yellow jacket, the same thing.
Yeah. But who can do that? I mean, nobody can do that. We all run away and
It's like how much of detachment that I'm not the body and I disturbed you and you can bite me.
I think for such people it's like a constant awareness. To be able to do that,
Well, what type of patience or, I mean,
I think
That is
basically
like, for us it is like the spontaneous. You don't have to think. It is an
that's
immediate
that's
reaction.
what, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. That it's like he's looking at something else. It's not his body.
So as I said, I think what you just said about Kapoor described from God is, form,
with form and without
without
form.
form, and something else you said, third line is very important. So this-
Infinitely more besides.
This example fits into the third line, infinitely more. When they are not within themselves, they live with the beyond and above.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can open a raspberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very. So, but then another point we can mention. Okay, suppose we accept that God is mother, and we like the idea, then why would the mother make us suffer? She created us, and then we are in this world, and there's so much suffering. That is the part that becomes kind of inscrutable, that we cannot understand God's ways. And the personal God, to me, is just as difficult to understand as the impersonal. We say, oh, Brahman beyond speech and mind. But the personal God is not easy to understand either. And that divinity can come and live among us as the avatar, the incarnation. How can you understand that? It's very hard. And to me, the image that personifies these contradictions most clearly is Kali. Because Kali, the whole image is a mystery, is a paradox. You have 4 arms, 2 are benign and 2 are punishing. A severed head and a sword. And then you have fearlessness and boons. So in one deity, the terrible and the loving mother are combined. I think that is the most fascinating deity I have come across, Kali. We normally like to think of God as, our well-wisher and very mild, but here is a goddess with a sword. But she's also very, blessing us. How can you have both in the same deity? I think it represents our life, our happiness and misery, our success and failure, life and death, light and darkness. There are many ways to interpret the image of Kali, not just one. She can be interpreted in many ways. Then the tongue sticking out. There are not many deities with the tongue sticking out. So you don't know if mother is smiling or frowning. Depending on your mood, she looks smiling, but she can be also, mad at you. So if we have done something wrong and we go to the shrine, oh, mother is mad at me. So it is really a very, very unique deity.
I think the tongue is coming out because she stepped in on Shiva, that's why.
There are many,
And that's why she is.
Many explanations.
many
on that,
explanations.
many
Yeah.
Many explanations. Yeah, that is one that I heard. Yes. It's like, like the Indian, they do like that. Yes. What did they do? Yeah. But there are many others. The female ideal in India is to be shy and indrawn and very submissive, if you want, the old-fashioned way. And here is mother sticking the tongue out to you, like I don't give a damn, I am free, and I'm not going to be shy.
That's interesting, Swamiji. It's like we come from the South India. We have the goddesses are very, very sattvic. Like we never have
Yes.
anything. We like.
You cannot
something like
imagine
that.
something.
Imagine something
Yes,
like
yes,
that.
yes, yes.
So first time when I was the Mother Kali, I was like, how could you pray? Because we don't have those pictures or we've not seen that, and here it is totally different.
But isn't that wonderful? I mean, you cannot really, I mean, it's a part of our life. Darkness.
Yeah, it's like
Darkness
yeah,
is a part of our life. To have light, you need darkness. And there is darkness in life. You know, if we want to avoid it, it will chase us. There is always something going wrong. There is always something undesirable. There is always some calamity sooner or later. So the mother is like, she encompasses everything. It's the whole of human life, good and bad. So we just surrender. We just surrender to her. We don't understand anything. We're helpless. So Mother, save us. I think that is the most fascinating part, that it combines, you know, everything.
And it's like I heard it like, you don't need a pacifying mother, you just need a
Yeah.
strong mother, and she's there to protect you.
Yeah, exactly.
Kali is in different form. Not only that she's doing this one with two hands also, Kali is there with a blessing. So
Yes,
there are different forms.
exactly. But you have both in the same person, you know. That's what is so interesting. And then she's naked. She, you know, a garland of human heads and human arms. The whole thing is really just the way a goddess should not look. And I think it's wonderful that only in India you will find this kind of, because of the freedom of thought, spiritual thought has been given free range. So people, the sages, they were not fettered by any dogma. Whatever they saw, whatever they experienced, they just express.
Yeah, there are different forms, like you have a lion head, you have a horse head,
Yes.
and a human body or anything.
That is the nature. It has in South America also. Some
Yes, there are many similarities.
Yes.
Yes. Somebody said that another meaning of sticking out the tongue is for those who want to understand. You know, that is her answer. If you want to understand Mother, that is, you will never understand her. And Sri Ramakrishna said, you know, I mean, he is the avatar, and he's telling it is impossible to understand who Mother is. Even the 6 systems of philosophy cannot fathom what Mother is. And then he says, what do you need to understand anyway? Just love her. Just love God. We don't need to understand because we will never understand anyway. We come to this world, we don't know where from we come. Then we leave this world, we don't know where we are going. In the meantime, every day we fall asleep, we don't know what happens to us. There's so many things we don't know. We know hardly anything. So it is really futile to try to understand Mother when we cannot understand ourselves, what goes on with us.
Then I wonder why we are here. What type of play is going on, you know?
Well, they say that when we become illumined, it all becomes revealed at once. It's not an intellectual understanding, it's a revelation. And the very easy example is, we are asleep, we are dreaming, and we are trying to understand, what am I doing here, you know? Then we wake up, and we say, that was a dream. And it's so clear, we understand what a dream is. But while we were dreaming, to try to understand, it's just not possible. So that is the example given. When we wake up from ignorance, we'll understand everything at once. Why we're here, why we are not here, is the world real, is the world unreal? It's like everything becomes clear at once. Because I think it is beyond our comprehension, human comprehension, you know, the human understanding, it is beyond. Just like if you have a dog, It may be the smartest dog in the whole city or in the whole country. He knows so many tricks. But can the dog play the piano? No, I mean, as a dog, it has its limitations. Even the smartest dog cannot understand, how to play an instrument or how to learn arithmetic. It's a dog, and it's limited by its dog intelligence. So I think humans, compared to these divine beings, we are a bit like that. I don't mean to say that we are dogs, but our understanding is limited. Human understanding, I think, is limited. Just like a dog's understanding, or an ant, or a butterfly. They come to this world to play their role. A butterfly doesn't understand that I have to pollinate the flowers, and that's very useful. The butterfly is living its life. The bee is just being a bee. It doesn't know that, it's very important to pollinate the plants. It's just a bee. So a human being is just a human being. We don't know why we're here, really speaking. We have no clue. But there must be a reason, just like there is a reason for the bee to exist and the butterfly. Eventually it will become known. But then why is it so important to understand? The important thing is to find peace, to find true happiness. Then the rest is like bonus. If we understand, good. If not, if I'm happy, that's all I need, really. So it's 9 o'clock, but we can continue if you want to discuss a little more.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we started at 7.
Yeah.
So
it's
tonight
finished.
it will go forward.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ahead of me.
So it's done now?
No, we have to stop.
Yeah, it's time to
Yes.
start.
Well, yeah, you can stop the live stream. We have done our hour. Jai Ma.